Hello everybody and welcome, welcome. I am very, very excited. You've guessed it, we're at the DMG MORI open house event. Just look at everybody in the background. I can honestly say, Steve, this is the first one you've done in 4 years. I've not been to an open house this busy in a very long time. This is brilliant.
Yeah, obviously COVID played a little bit of part of that, but I'm really delighted. First day, absolutely full, car park rammed, lots and lots of inquiries, fantastic machines, which we'll talk about in a bit. Yeah, lovely to see you guys here as well.
What's changed in 4 years, Steve? You say it has been 4 years, and I can remember being here at the last one, 2019. What's moved on, and what's different now to what was then?
2019 was a good year for manufacturing in the UK. A lot of machine tool companies did very well, we did very well, but it was a lot of single machines. Today we're very much into the automation. You know, labour is the biggest problem. You talk to anybody about what's your problem in the machine shop, it's labour. Getting the right quality and everything else. So we've got a lot of machines here with automation, and we've put as many in as we can to show the huge range that we have in the automation portfolio.
I've never seen it so busy. Or in terms of, the amount of kit that you've got in here. Over recent years, we've been coming through doing different films on different things here, but we've never seen quite so many machines. So just tell us how many there is here for people that want to visit over the course of the next 2 weeks.
Well, we've got 13 machines. We've got various levels of automation on most of those machines, and even the machines that haven't got automation, they're prepped, so they're automation ready. So they can be delivered, and then we can retrofit an automation system at a later stage.
So let me just give you a little bit of information as to what we're doing here as well. So of course we're going to have this chat with Steve, find out a little bit more about the themes of the show and the event. This is interactive. This is for you to ask questions directly to Steve. We've got all the technology set up, so if you want to ask a question whilst you're watching this, bring that question in. We'll have it come up onto the screen. We can grill you, shall we say, Steve, in terms of technology and the questions from yourselves. Then at 2 o'clock, Paul is going to go on a tour of the facility. Ultimately, you want to see metal being cut, you want to be seeing swarf flying, and that's what we're going to be showcasing at 2 o'clock. So make sure you put a note in your diary today, that's what's happening. This open house is on today, it's on tomorrow. On Friday, they've got an apprenticeship day, an education day. We'll ask you about that in a few moments' time. And then also next week, so another date for your diary. If you can't make it this week, we know with half terms, it's at different times. On Wednesday of next week and Thursday of next week, all of this is happening again. So that's a little bit of a schedule for you. So tomorrow, Education Day Friday, and Wednesday and Thursday of next week. But get those questions in. So just quickly, automation, digitization, they're kind of the themes of the event, aren't they, Steve? So why?
Well, again, we come back to this labour issue.
Yeah.
We come back to process, how you can actually maintain the process, because again, labour's going to give you an issue. You know, one day you've got Fred in, the next day you've got Harry in. We've got to get a standard process to get the quality of the product that the customer is manufacturing out the door. So we're also including into that process integration as well. Okay. So we're including other facilities inside the machine. So for example, on the NTX 2500, which is a multi-axis processing machine, we also have gear skiving, and we're doing external and internal gear skiving, very high standards. You'll be able to see this later on when you do your tour. We can adapt grinding into this. We can go as far, we haven't today, but we can go as far as laser deposition on these machines. So for example, if you've got a particular component that you want to manufacture from a billet, and then you want to put some kind of coating on it, maybe a stellite or an Inconel coating, then come back and grind it, finished process, off the machine complete. So it's pulling all those disciplines together to actually give the customer the end result. You can't have just automation or just digitisation. You've got to bring all these items in. So it's not just a piece of cast iron we're selling anymore, it's a whole process.
The automation, probably quite clear from our audience, and in fact if you do use automation, we'd obviously like to hear from you and the benefits that it's offered your business. But beyond that, you talk about digitisation, Steve. What does that actually mean? People will be clear on what automation is, pallet systems, loading, unload and so forth, but what is the digitisation element?
A lot of that is the monitoring and collecting data, understanding what you can do with that data, and every customer has different data requirements. So you can look at our production planning board, which is a software kind of thing. We can look at our Tulip, which is an opportunity for not just assembly processes, but also maybe there's a machining process that has to be followed. So we can have Tulip. So you can look at that at the tour later on. And it's all part of that digital package.
Go on. Technology cycles, we're hearing a lot of people talk about these now. We've had a little bit of a tour, haven't we? And they've been saying, yep, you can do this, but then there's a technology cycle on that. It's a bit of a hot topic, so what does this all mean?
Well, again, it's about skills and lack of skills. So what we've done is we've integrated a process which will give us an output, the same as a customer can actually write longhand. But if you look at like gear skiving, for example, sometimes it's very complex programming. And we have a very simple, tablet system to fill in, and then the machine can then actually calculate all the cutting processes for you.
Is this a bit like walking into AI? Because when we were at EMO, that was something that was talked about. Is it?
Well, not
quite.
really, because the thing with AI is it's determining something for you. What we're doing here is we're giving it some set parameters, and it can calculate the program. So it's a very powerful piece of software that's under control. It's not quite artificial intelligence, but maybe it's coming.
Yeah, I think on that.
What I've seen from walking around briefly, as we did earlier, is most of the machines have got technology cycles kind of labelled on them. Technology cycle for this, for that. You mentioned the gear skiving one, and as I say, I'm going to be doing a tour at 2 o'clock live, so make sure you tune in for that. The gear skiving, about 5 minutes, one of your colleagues was saying it takes to program a gear. And actually looking at the quality of the part that came off, it doesn't look like it's kind of rushed it in any way. It looks like a highly well-engineered part. I mean, that's incredibly quick.
Yeah, we've got a lot of experience on gear cutting, not just multitasking machines, but also on the DMU type machines, the big, with FD tables, doing big gears. A lot on the NLX where we're doing small gears, where we're either broaching or skiving. So a lot of experience within the group across the product range.
Can I ask what machines, again for our audience, I'm sure they're keen to know, if they do visit Steve, what machines are they going to see here? Let's talk about, turning, milling, 5-axis, what's the range?
Well, we've got simple 3-axis vertical machines here. We've got NLX with a gantry loader, with a sub-spindle, driven tools, Y-axis. We've got another NLX with a 20-station turret, which is predominantly bar, so that's being bar fed. We've got standard 3-axis turning machines. Then we go into the higher level of the DMU 60, 5-axis machine, DMU 75, 5-axis, horizontal 4-axis with a pallet system on it, which goes up into the air, saves a lot of space along there. We've got CTX, which is a popular machine with a robo to go on. We've got a small 5-axis vertical with a loader on it, inbuilt loader, really good for small parts, medical, that kind of thing. So we're going right across and we squeezed in as much as we can into this room.
How did you remember all that? Were you here setting it all up? I mean, you've been away as well, haven't you?
Don't ask me the prices. But yeah, it's great. And I'm not belittling the audience in any shape or form, because there's some really good guys out there with really good skill sets who can actually program up these machines and make them sing and dance. But actually, there's also a big scarcity, a gap.
There's a gap.
Exactly, a gap of where people. So with a gear cutting, boom, 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 done. Let it do it. And if you're making 10 off, does it matter if the cycle time is 15 minutes as opposed to trying to tune it down to 13 and a half minutes because you're going to make thousands off? Well, if you're going to make thousands off, then technology cycles are not for you. This is about getting throughput through the shop, making 10 off, making 20 off, making 100 off, getting them through, invoice your customer.
Okay, so we are live streaming across LinkedIn, TikTok, on YouTube, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Really, this is interactive, so you can get those messages in. We've just had a message come in, so we've got a question for you, but also, just a few minutes' time, we're going to have a customer come and sit in the hot seat. In fact, I think we've got a couple of customers, so get those questions to the customers as well. So, right, we've had a question come in. So, can you explain? You've already asked this one, but just a brief explanation. This is from Georgie Jacob on LinkedIn. Can you explain digitalisation? So, I think we have slightly covered it, but if you can just give him a brief.
Yeah, is there anything you'd want to add to that? I think you pretty much covered that. I mean,
yeah, I think hopefully we've got a demonstration area here. We're using the Tulip to use digitisation. It's really about collecting data, feeding data back to people, whether it's data of the performance of the machine or actual how the machine is working functionality-wise, service-wise, and that kind of thing. All this digital processing is available.
Evolution of improvement as well.
I remember, it was 25 years ago when I was on the shop floor, and kind of in answer to that question, there were so many things we did wrong because we didn't have digitalisation, like, loading parts in machines left idle, wear on tools that was excessive, therefore surface finishes were poor. All of these things that we couldn't measure in the way that you do today. And I think that's the key thing, isn't it? It is the measurement side.
Measuring is actually a good description. Measuring what you're doing.
And I think this afternoon, the machines that Steve mentioned, as I say, at 2 o'clock, we'll be doing a live tour. If you've got any questions relating to the machines that Steve mentioned that are going to be on show that you want me to look at specifically, then please put them in the comments and we'll cover that during the tour. I'm going to steal one from you. DMG MORI City at EMO. This, we could clearly say, is a DMG MORI town, isn't it? Is it a good way to describe it?
The city at EMO was fantastic. It was, you could come into that hall too and you can see anything that you needed within the arena that we work within. Software, hardware, applications, partners, and it just went on and on and on. And the idea is that we're bringing people in to show them the city of DMG MORI. We are now a little town, and you're right, it's a town. We're the small hub. I'm responsible for the UK. I'm responsible for our own P&L. I'm responsible for the performance of our company. I'm responsible to make sure that customers get great service and that the product works for them. And if it doesn't, I deal with it personally. It doesn't go off to some group somewhere and lost in the ether. It's really important that we're hubs. So there's 156 hubs like me around the world. Not 156 Steve Finns, I can assure you.
But there's only one.
I'm struggling to hear because there's that many people out there. There's so much noise. It's fantastic.
Well, when I did the tour of the DMG MORI City, and you can catch that on our YouTube channel as well from EMO, I said to one of your colleagues that there was kind of labelled restaurants as well. So there was a Japanese restaurant, and I asked him whether they did good fish and chips there, of which he said, no, you'll have to go to the DMG MORI town in the UK to get that. So hopefully that's on the menu at lunch, Steve.
We've got some good lunch on today. As usual, we've got our regular chef come in that we hire in for these processes. It's important to look after the customer. They're going to be exhausted out there once they've gone around all those machines. We need to refresh them and get them back on the road working.
Just talking about the week, so I've just explained to you it's on today and tomorrow, but there's also something very special that I know you hold very dear to your heart that's happening on Friday, because it's all about education. I used to work here a few years ago, and I've never met anybody who wants to encourage education and apprenticeships, anybody more than you do, Steve. So what is it that's happening on Friday?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that, because it is close to my heart. As you get older in life, everybody who has some kind of responsibility wants to give something back. Ideally want to give back some of the experiences that I've had over the years to show people what the opportunities are in manufacturing right across the board. And I've been very, very fortunate working for this company for over 40 years. I've seen so many different companies, so many different applications, so many different ways of working around the world, not just in the UK. So on Friday, we're opening the doors for the apprentices.
It's for everyone watching.
Yeah, everyone. At the moment, we have around about 95 apprentices registered that are coming in, which is fantastic. I just want to talk to them and say, just give them those words of encouragement and say, you know, this is where we're going. This is where you have the opportunities, you know, and it's anybody who's got experience in our industry should do the same.
Yes.
Because we've got a great gap of people. We've got a whole load of parents that don't understand what manufacturing is. You know, I do evenings at the MTC and I talk to the parents, well, we don't make anything anymore. Oh, let me bore you for 10 minutes. We make loads and really, really good stuff. So these guys are our future.
Yep.
You know, without them, we're lost.
And when they have that future, Steve, one thing I want to kind of potentially conclude on myself is the DMG MORI finance offering. Now, people watching this and watching the tour that happens at 2 o'clock this afternoon, they'll see some real high-level technology, and they may well think to themselves, do you know what, this looks fantastic, but it really is out of my reach financially. This is something that you've addressed very successfully in the last few years. Can you maybe reassure some of our audience that actually if they come here and purchase, the investment's going to be easy, but it's not going to be a problem for them either?
We've got your questions as well, so we'll ask them in a few moments.
The DMG MORI Finance is a really integral part of our business. Over 50% of our business is financed by DMG MORI Finance. And the most important thing here is that it's our book. So we have an understanding of what the customer needs, what the customer will do, and also the residual value that we can put on the product. We put a big residual value on the product, makes the monthly cost lower. So we don't talk about, you know, this machine is, if I went into a customer and said, oh, this machine is £500,000. What have I done? I've given him a £500,000 headache. If I go in there and say, actually, this machine's £8,000 a month, it's a different conversation. Oh, right, well, I'm turning this component and I'm making £12,000 and I'm doing this. You can understand what's capable. As a company, we have a responsibility to try and feed into the market. So we take a very different view to what is taken by traditional finance houses and the banks. We keep it in-house. We've addressed, I think, we've actually done something like about 110, maybe 120 million pounds worth of finance in the UK so far. And we also in there, a number of startup companies. Quite a few startup companies have been involved. One's just walked through the door, just bought his first second-hand machine and realised, hey, I should be buying one of these because I need automation for a start. And we'll make life easy for him, you know?
No, it's really good. Do you want to ask the questions in a minute, or do you want to ask them now? Because we've got a few coming in.
I'm going to ask the questions now. Also, just to give you a heads up, 2 o'clock, Paul is going to go on a tour around the facility so you can see all the cutting demonstrations. In just a few moments, we've got a customer with I'm really excited about speaking to this gentleman because it's a very, very interesting story about his recent purchases and the size of his company. So, a couple of ones. Georgie has asked, how is AI going to come into manufacturing?
Well, it's going to come into the whole world, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but I'm near retirement age, so
you're like, I don't want to deal with it.
I think there's some really, really positive things what I've seen, and there's some really worrying things I've seen as well. But again, it's going to change the world, and you know, some of the things that we try to do with ourselves, and we haven't got the capabilities. I think the AI is going to assist that all the way down the line.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think we're going to get into, I'm never going to see it in my lifetime where it's going to take over the world, but it's going to change dramatically. And I think I'm no expert on it.
Well, there is one thing, interestingly, if you tune in at 2, we'll have more detail on it. I think it's your NHX 4000 is using AI for swarf management. So that's something to see at 2 o'clock.
In the tour.
Yeah. Any more questions or comments or even shout outs? How are some of the things that Steve's mentioned affected your business? Are you using automation? Are you using digitisation? Or are you looking at doing that in the near future? I think we're quite pressured for time. I've got to just ask Steve one more thing. Sustainability, because this is obviously very important. Energy costs going up. All of these things around that kind of green environment. What are you guys doing that, if you can sum that up in a few sentences?
Yeah, I mean, there's various things. There's the environmental side of things, which our company's very keen on. We produce carbon-free products. We use enormous amounts of solar panels in Japan. We've got the largest solar panel factory in Japan. You know, outside of the industrial solar panel farms, it's huge. And we're building on that all the time. But there's also sustainability with the machines. The machines closing themselves down, not just switching off, but closing themselves down, which means the servos aren't under load, there's not juice going into the machine, cut off. Other power saving features on various machines. It's got to be done because, you know, energy is expensive.
I was at one of your customers the other day, and they were talking about the power from the machine and utilising any spare heat and any electricity around their facility, and I was thinking, wow, this is next level thinking. So they got
regenerating that energy back into useful use.
Yes, exactly.
Shall we come back to the next question once we've got the next gentleman on the set?
I think we're going to have Konrad on in just a few moments. So, Steve, thank you so much. We're going to get one of your customers on in just a moment, but thank you.
Thanks,
and
Lyndsey.
Again, if you've got any questions for any team member, get them across because that's what this is all about. So I'll take your microphone off you,
and
Steve.
come and visit us.
Yes.
Come and see us. We're open. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
As Steve said, thank you very much, Steve. Thank you. As Steve said, this open house is on obviously today, tomorrow, and Friday for the education, and then next Wednesday and Thursday as well. It's here in Coventry, very centrally located, close to the M6, pretty close to the M45.
It's just in,
So yeah, definitely. What you see on MTDCNC will be great, but you can't replace physically being here. Like this gentleman is here that's about to join us, Konrad.
Hello, there's your microphone.
Hello, nice to meet you again.
How are you?
Yeah, not bad.
Okay, so for those that don't know, if you don't know this gentleman that's sitting on the chairs, you obviously don't use social media because he's quite prolific in his posting for good reason. You've got a great company, Konrad, and a really good story. Perhaps you could tell us about yourself, your company, and your journey.
So we started a subcontract precision machine shop 5 years ago as a family-run business. The journey was, bumpy at times, but here we are in 2023. We have 4 DMG machines, new ones. We have a much bigger premises now. We just completed the move, and it's fun. It's fun being part of UK manufacturing.
What's your core business then? Who are you aiming your work towards?
Because we invested in 5-axis technology 3 years ago, we can deliver parts to aerospace, complex parts to aerospace. We can deliver complex parts to defense, medical, or any general requirements.
I mean, Konrad, it's very easy for us to sit here and talk about manufacturing, machining, what we know, the technologies that we see. But I know that our audience is really interested in challenges that you face as a company. Certainly when you're growing so quickly, how do you overcome challenges that I'm sure you'll tell us about and maintain growth at the same time?
I mean, obviously you have to have a support from your customers. You have to have customers because otherwise you don't generate money. But at the same time, you have to have a lot of support from your suppliers, like a DMG MORI. You have to have a support from people who know what you're dealing with on a daily basis. It's one thing to buy the machine, the other thing is to pay for the machine and to use the machine, to maintain the machine, to service the machine. The machines, any brand, any make, it will break in the worst possible time. And you have to have someone who will come in as quickly as they can to fix it, right? And also, they need to know you have different skills in your company, that they need to be professional enough to deal with people who might not be the best machinists out there, but they have to operate the best machines from the DMG MORI kind of thing. So the support from people around you is almost as important as having money in the bank, pretty much.
Sorry, Lyndsey. In fact, if you want to ask Konrad a question, this is a perfect time to do it because we are live here at the DMG MORI open house. Or in fact, any questions or comments, get them on. We have got a shout out for Mahir Atiwade on LinkedIn, who wants to. Do you have any motivation for the growing manufacturing?
I think that was for Steve earlier.
That was for Steve earlier. We've got a couple for Steve earlier, which we'll come back to.
How much support, when you say you're having to lean on a company like this, I want to get kind of deep down into it, and not, personal individual issues, but how much do you have to lean on a company like this?
It depends how quickly you want to grow and which markets you want to attack first, and like I said, how quickly you want to grow. Because we are a small company, let's say, we are a small family-based company, but our aspirations are sky high.
Yeah.
And obviously the machines cost a lot of money. We just got another 2 new machines from DMG MORI, and they offer a finance that no one can even match on the market, not even beat, but even match on the market. So on one side, you have the greatest technology on the market. On the other side, as a small company, they allow us to invest in that technology. So it's not only about having money and spending money. If you're a smaller company trying to grow, you don't want to jeopardize your cash flow too much. So the financing from DMG MORI is a very important bit. The service is very important, the training is very important, and you just know, like time and time again, we put the machines through its paces. We do very complex work, and every time we make parts, we run the machine 24/7 for 2 weeks, and there's no changes in the process. It just creates same parts day in, day out, nights in, nights out, and we're like, do we measure them properly? It's like, there must be something wrong here because they're just similar. It's pretty much 10 microns away from each other all the time. And we're like, okay, maybe it's just a machine then. Maybe we're just lucky, right? No, it's like our DMU50 for the last 2 weeks doing one part over and over again. It's 10 microns. And we're like, okay, we'll take it. It's
Absolutely.
What is it, outside of the kind of machining, what is the day-to-day life of Konrad? What do you do when you get up what time do you start, what time do you finish?
My start time is pretty much depending on my son, whenever he kicks me.
But how many people have you got? How does all this, what does a day look like?
We have 2 people now. We're actively trying to find someone to work for us. So Long Hope, Gloucestershire, come and see us. It depends how much work we have. Luckily now I'm only based 5 minutes away. So we run same shift patterns. It's just when do I have to be there. We try to work a bit from home, a bit from on premises. So it all depends. I have to juggle my time with seeing customers, seeing suppliers, seeing different partners, and obviously programming machines and doing everything. But it's fun.
So it kind of sounds like you do absolutely everything. Then
I'm trying to. At the same time, if you look at it from my perspective, I have people I can trust at my company now, but I have to push them as well. So they know they can always rely on me, but I always try to push them a bit further. Like, there is a small challenge now. I prefer to leave them alone and find a solution rather than me just showing them the solution. Because in the long run, in the long term,
you need that skill.
Yeah.
We've got a question for you actually. What features or capabilities have the DMG MORI machines had the most significant impact on your production processes or quality? And that's from YouTube.
It's the quality of the components that DMG will produce, and I mean both on our DMU50 5-axis machine, but also on our standard 3-axis CMX 600. You create parts, you measure them, and you have to think, okay, do I measure them properly, or am I just biased towards that result? Because it's just producing parts so tight on tolerances, nice finishes, nice and smooth movements, and then you measure the parts. You want something in 10 microns, it will produce that 10 microns day in, day out. So it makes me happy.
What about, and just before I say that, 2 o'clock tour coming, we're live here from the DMG MORI Open House. Any comments or questions for Konrad? We've got other engineers about to join us shortly to tell us about their story. Konrad, lots of news, lots of talk about cost of living, running machines, buying new or renting new facilities, which you've just gone into. You've taken a plunge into some of these things at what some would consider to be a challenging and difficult time. Are you seeing anything in your business that's having an impact with things like this? And do your machinery and your equipment help you? Yeah,
well, the costs are rising, obviously. If you compare our monthly cost of running the business 3 years ago, the same cost like electricity, that's way higher now. You have to pay more to your people because you want to have them to have a good life as well. So you have to increase wages. Obviously, everything else costs more because the interest rates are higher as well. So even machines will cost you more. So it is a challenging time, but at the same time, you cannot look into negativity too much because it's just like a black hole. It will just suck you in and never let you out. There are challenges, but more fun is into overcoming the challenges. So just stay positive, look at the costs, try to find the solutions. Maybe change the way you produce parts. Instead of using 3-axis, maybe use 5-axis. speak with DMG maybe and get automated machines. Try to find a solution rather than focus on the issue.
You're very determined.
You have to be.
Yeah.
Good donuts as well.
Donuts, breakfast rolls. We have a new supplier in Michelin. Perfect cafe. Yeah.
Brilliant. Right, I think I've got one more question. This is just overall, really. How has the customer support and service been from DMG MORI? I kind of get the vibes of what you've just said, but just an overarching for the question.
I mean, we are a small company. We have 4 DMG MORI machines now, and I know other companies have 20, 50, 100. I've never felt being treated differently than the bigger companies. So if I have an issue, they're on the phone, they send a person. I think the same way they would treat a bigger company. So from my perspective,
it's personal.
It's just how it should be.
Yeah. Right. Brilliant.
Excellent.
If you're travelling down the M4 or crossing the M5, is it? Donuts.
Yeah.
Konrad
Donuts.
Nerc.
Yeah. If you're anywhere around Forest of Dean, just come and see us. Donuts on me.
Great stuff.
Konrad, thank you
Carry
so
on the
much.
success.
Thank
Well
you.
done, Konrad.
Good luck.
Good to see you.
Good
Good to
luck.
see you.
I would shake your hand, but I'm going to see you. Right. Okay. We've got another person coming onto the set now. I'll just hand the microphone over. This is a live stream. So all we're going to say is ask those questions, get those questions in. We'd encourage you to speak to us. Now on set with us, don't forget we've got a tour happening at 2 o'clock with Paul. So we know what you want to see, metal cutting, and there's going to be loads of demonstrations. Paul's going to take you around the facility. This is Mark Hyde from Hyde Engineering.
Good afternoon.
Mark, thanks for going on camera.
That's all right.
So tell us your story, Mark. I mean, I know, tell us about the company and the size of the business then.
Okay, so we're sort of 8 people strong now. Mix of shop floor people and guys in the office, myself included. It's been a roller coaster of 2 years. So 10 years ago I set the company up purely out of frustration of not being able to get what I wanted. Being able to go to one place, a one-stop shop to be able to get that turnkey solution type work holding, fixturing, CAM, and then getting somebody on site to help you. We've got a skill shortage, everybody knows that. And being able to have a company I could go to that could sort of almost sort of backfill or help out with that skill shortage, that was where I saw that missing piece. So taking advantage of that, we set up the company. It was me for the first 7 years, 8 years.
Wow, yes.
But it was picking up really good contracts, working with big companies, the Rolls-Royces, the Collins Aerospaces of the world. Right to the point where 3-4 years ago, it was actually, you know what, don't come and do the turnkey. We've only got 100 of these parts to make. You just make them for us.
Sorry, what did you say?
So you just make them for us.
Oh, okay.
So you get to a point where it's not in their interest for them to do that sort of batch work. So they came to us.
Lyndsey thought you were asking her to make them for a minute. Hang on a minute.
That's a good shout. Yeah, you got a job.
It's noisy in here, okay.
It is noisy. So we didn't have machines. I set up another company with another 2 guys, which unfortunately went to the wayside through the pandemic, which affected a lot of companies. As we've come out the other side of that, one of our customers that we started doing a turnkey project for again, they had their production work doubled on them in the time I was on site doing the work for them. So the last day of us finishing the project, I had a tap on the shoulder, can you make some of these parts for us? About £600,000 a year, so it wasn't just some, it was a big old number for as long as the project sort of goes on. But the caveat was, they give us the order in December, we've got to be up and running by the end of January.
Wow.
We didn't have a factory, we didn't have machines, we didn't have electricity, compressors, nothing. People, just me, me and Sam. So massive challenge. So testament to DMG. Picked up the phone and panicked a little down the phone at the sales guys and said, look, you need to find me some kit, we need to get moving. And the first machine was delivered on the 28th of January.
And you managed to hit the requested deadline?
Yep.
So interesting on this end, Mark. Great story. Let's look at what we've got here at this open house. So we're live here at the DMG MORI open house. We're talking with Mark Hyde from Hyde Engineering. If you've got any questions for Mark, get them into whichever social platform you're watching this on, or in general, if you want to know more about the DMG MORI open house, please ask. Mark, the big theme here is automation and digitisation. Steve is obviously talked about the machines that are here, and we talk about automation and how important it is. But let's hear it from somebody like yourself. Is that the case, or is it just something that people talk about but don't implement? What about Hyde?
No. So obviously we're 10 years down the road. We're now feeling the skill shortage issue with people. Very difficult to find, and the ones you do find, it's difficult to keep hold of them because somebody's always trying to poach them or steal them from you, understandably so. So we've now adopted the automation strategy ourselves. So over the last 12 months, we've invested in an NTX 2000. We've gone full automation, so we've got bar feeder, main and sub spindle for part transfer, but also robot unloading, which gives us that flexibility of being able to get more hours, because the machine ultimately for 7-8 hours a day sat there idle, so we get more hours out of the machine. We apply sort of skill into the engineering of the jobs, which then means that the person in front of it doesn't have to be as skilled, although the guys we've got are very good. We can de-skill the people if we need to, because we put the engineering work up front and then the machine does the work for us. The casting work, or the job I was talking about earlier, where we kind of really set up and kicked off, that's still going. We've been asked to make more parts because their orders have gone up again. So in order for us to be able to do that, we've had to look at automation again. So we've just invested in another DMU 50 and on it.
And you couldn't have done all this without that automation then?
No.
And do you measure it all? We talk about digitisation. A couple of questions have come in about that, and keep them coming. You know, is it something that you have brought in amongst your automated solution? So are you measuring all the things that digitisation might offer you?
Yeah, so all of our machines, the messenger service that the guys have got, we've got that on every machine. We've not fully set it up yet because it's a little bit more of a minefield for us because of the way our systems are set up. But that's something we're integrating, so we can look at OEE, making sure the machines and the uptime that we've got is good. But the automation thing, and something that we hadn't thought about, was cycle time reduction. So not just introducing automation to get more hours, is actually how can we improve the efficiency of the cycle time on the parts. And going to the DMU 50, it's a much faster machine based on what we were using. So our cycle times are reduced by 40%. 40%. And that's just kinematically the machine's faster. The terms of the job, the tools, everything that we're doing is exactly the same.
It's a newer model.
It's the same model as we've got already, just non-automation. But the parts we're talking about were run on slower machines. Still very good machines, still very capable, but not necessarily designed for that sort of work. Yeah. But yeah, we've gained a 40% cycle time reduction, which is fantastic for us.
I want to ask a similar question to what you asked Konrad earlier. Cost of living, everything like that, sustainability. What are your thoughts? Because obviously a lot of companies are addressing it and people are talking about it, but how serious are you taking it? And what is it that companies are doing where you're going, actually, I'm starting to see, is there a difference? Are you seeing a difference?
Yeah, cost of electricity is astronomical.
Yep.
So something we're trying to do. So it's a double-edged sword. There's the green aspect of it, but there's also, actually, you know what, it makes sense to do because there's a cost-saving aspect to be achieved. So we're looking to move to a new facility. It's going to be built from scratch, about 4 or 5 miles away from where we are now, but we're going full green. So the whole roof, solar panels. They don't know it yet, but somebody I know owns a company in the UK called Levercore Systems. They do hydrogen-based energy generation. So we're about to start talking to those guys about potentially looking at using hydrogen-based energy for that site as well. Don't know the full ins and outs of that yet, but that's something we're going to find out about. So there's a green aspect to it, but for us it's about the cost saving. It's about being able to make sure that we can still maintain competitiveness, because when our costs rise, that ultimately has to be passed on to somewhere. So if we can reduce costs elsewhere, we can sort of trade off one against the other. That's kind of what we're doing at the moment.
No, it's interesting.
Yeah.
You got any more questions?
No, I'm just conscious of time here, Mark. Brilliant story, and really good luck to you. I think we've been to your place, haven't we? We've been there and we've shot films, so you'll be able to find videos on our YouTube channel from Hyde Engineering when we visited Mark and his colleagues. And of course, if you've got any questions for Mark, I'm sure you can Google or find Mark's details on the social media to see how they can help you. Tour coming up at 2 o'clock this afternoon here. We're here live at DMG Mori's open house. If you've got any questions for us or for DMG Mori, we'll have more personnel from the company coming on in due course, then please get them into the social media platforms that you're watching on. Another guest.
Okay, so we've got Dan, and you're from Sandvik.
From Sandvik, yes.
So Dan, lovely to meet you. I hear you're good friends with our colleague Tom from the company.
I don't think he's my friend after what he's done to me here, but yeah.
Put you in it. Right, okay, tell us your story and what you've got on site at your facility then, Dan.
So on our facility we have a DMU 80, which is a 5-axis machine that we've got from DMU. We've had it now for around, I think it's around 6 months, 7 months, something like that. And then also we've got a lot of work on at the show today. We've got demos with our tooling on pretty much most of the machines, I would say, running.
Kind of forgive my ignorance here, but I think it's important. What would a business like yours, Sandvik, need a machine like a DMU80 for? What are you making? You know, because some might see you as a supplier of products rather than somebody that makes things.
As a customer.
So the reason we have the DMU and our centre in general is the way that we work and the way that we go to market. A lot of the things that we do, we like to prove a concept before we even bring it to a customer, because certain customers in aerospace, it's very difficult to get time on their machine because of seal processes and things like that. So it's very good for us to have a facility where we can prove a new method, then we can show a benefit and a cost saving in that time reduction that we can give them. So then we can go to that customer with a real case. This is your part, this is the time it's taken us to make it, and this is the cost to make it. And then it can spur on the actual birth of the project 6-7 months down the line, because sometimes it's a long time to get these projects ticked off.
And there's a reason why you invest in that particular model, isn't there? Because you see it as being out in industry.
Definitely, yeah. I think in a lot of stuff with 5-axis machines, it makes complete sense. Obviously, when having a big machine like the DMU80, we have a lot of capacity that we can put on it. Mm-hmm. So there's not many jobs that we can't put something on and say, yeah, we can do that in-house, we can prove it out. So having that capacity is really good to have.
Yeah, it's about having the capacity.
Yeah.
And do you use the machine yourself?
So I'm not the operator, no, but we do lots of programming support and things like that our operator will then run through. So we work quite closely with the team in our tech centre who do that.
We've got a comment coming in about a tap breakage video. Does that resonate with you?
Have you got a tap breakage video?
Yes. So in a previous job, we used to do lots of different testing. And
do you know this person that's put that on?
Yes, I do know this person. I think it's that person there who's laughing away to himself as he chuckles. And we had an issue where a block of material was a different grade of steel to what we thought. So we drilled it with through coolant, no problem, and then when we tapped it, well, it turns out 40 metres a minute on steel, that's 50 Rockwell isn't the best idea, and it just exploded. Okay. But yeah, when it went, I then put it on Instagram and it
blew up. They always do.
It was millions of views. And so
the DMU80 you talk about, is it spec'd up with all the bells and whistles?
Yes.
Has it got, you've gone through everything that you may need in order to
we've got
get the
everything.
best?
But I mean, some of the demos that we've got on here, it's got power skiving on it. We've got that option as well on the DMU, so we can do power skiving. We can show the latest ways of reducing time. And I mean, it's on one of the NTXs, and it's a really good demo to see. And
we're going to be doing a tour at 2 o'clock this afternoon, but from your perspective, what's some of the highlights here? What should people be coming here for this week or next?
I think a lot for me, it's automation and seeing the latest machines and how you can use them to save yourself time. And we always talk about it's not just buying the machine and then putting the same procedures and the same processes on that machine that you've always done. You want to upgrade it and see it as an opportunity to really kick on. And the stuff with the automation that's here, the better machines that you've got here, it really does go hand down with that. So I think that's probably
definitely saving time, but being more efficient at the same time.
That's it. More competitive as well. It's tough winning work. It's tough keeping work. And if you don't invest and you don't keep at that sort of level, there's always someone who's going to be on your coattails to try and take that from you.
Your facility worth a visit? I know you've been there.
I was lucky enough to be able
definitely.
to.
I mean, our facility in Hale's always fantastic. It's newly opened and we've got some good stuff on show, and I like it. Yeah, definitely.
I can vouch for that as well because I was part of the inauguration. Dan, thank you so much
welcome.
for going on camera. I'll take that from you. Cheers. Thank you. Right, okay, so we have got a tour of the facility happening at 2 o'clock. If you can get down to this facility, the event is on tomorrow. There is an apprentice and education day on Friday, and on next week, it's on Wednesday and Thursday
What's your, we got a big shout out for Andy Seuss here, who watches a lot of our stuff, DMG MORI user, so good to hear that you're on. Before we shut this one off, quite an interesting 45, it might have even been longer, good grief.
I haven't even looked at the time.
45 minutes. Interesting to hear from Steve about some of the aspects and some of the things that they're showing, but great to hear from customers as well.
And you've had a little bit of a tour already, so what are you looking forward to seeing later?
I think you've got to tune in at 2 o'clock because we're going to be talking with your colleague, who I know you've spent some time with in the past.
Fred.
Very, very technical, but We've talked about gear skiving, that's clearly on show. There's horizontal machining centres, or a horizontal machining centre that is using AI in order to manage the swarf, which is all important when you're looking at automation and unmanned running. There's other multitasking machines that are doing or using technology cycles to do kind of 5-axis turning as well, thanks to our Hypermill software. There's 3 and 5-axis machines with automation, pallet pulls, what they class as an entry-level 5-axis that's actually got automation added to it.
Yeah.
There's so much here to see. In fact, like we said at the start, I've never seen the showroom so busy with machinery. So
and people, like it is literally full, and you can see behind us it's very noisy in here because of the sheer amount of people. I think that's the other thing as well, is the fact that it's the full spectrum that they've got here on show. So 2 o'clock is the tour. We're going to be going live then. If you've got any questions, a big shout out as well to Andy Sues, is a great customer of DMG Mori's as well, and a very inspirational story that you've got there, Andy. But keep those messages coming in, and we'll be back with you at 2 p.m. today.